say we're not going to conduct the office this evening.
We call the meeting to order. We're not going to conduct the oath of office this meeting.
It's the next
We
agenda
move to the next agenda item, election of officers.
Should we open it for chair first? For chair first. We need chair and vice chair.
We don't have ed for the elections. I would suggest that. I'd suggest you go ahead and get a chair and vice chair first, and then that will kind of help facilitate the rest of the meeting that you called for the election of officers.
I make a motion.
I was just gonna say the three eligible are the three regular members, so Tracy, Dustin, and Michael are eligible for those two.
I make a motion that we nominate Dustin Williams to be the chair and Michael to be the vice chair.
I second that.
Should we have a vote?
Or any discussion? I'm sorry.
No.
Well,
You say.
we have talked to both of them in advance, and they're both amenable to taking on these positions.
So no further discussion. Is there a second? Are you second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right. Need to.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, how are you? Good.
Can we do a quick sound check?
Testing.
Testing.
Testing. I didn't have it on initially.
Yeah, I didn't have mine on.
Testing.
All right, so if everyone on the board will call out your name.
Tony Markward, Michael Downing,
Tracy Westwood.
Dustin Williams.
Art Meyer.
And we do have a quorum. So do you have a motion to open public hearing VA-004161-2016?
I motion to open the hearing.
I second the motion.
Public hearing VA-004161-2016.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to hear from the town attorney quickly.
We're going to keep this informal because it's a small group, but this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So the first thing we need to do is get everybody sworn in. Even though it sounds more or less the way we have to do it, so you have to base, this group, you base your decision upon what you hear, it's evidence. And either they're just going to be talking to you, maybe handing you a few things, that is the evidence. So anybody that is going to be speaking or telling this board something, including town staff, we need for you to get sworn in. Mr.
Actually, the chair can, over the bylaws, the chair can swear everyone in. We just put you to work tonight. You get to read
You don't
something.
want to anymore?
And if anybody that wants to speak can come forward.
So if you're going to speak, come please, and you can do it all at one time. We have done it all at one time.
Yes, we'll get a mistake in that.
It depends what we're talking about. I mean, if it's about the sign about the school, in front of the school, okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So place your left hand on the Bible. Please state your name.
Leanne Lee.
Bruce Whitney. Chris Rice.
Lori Everett.
And do you swear that the evidence you give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Bruce Whitney. Spell W-I-T-T-E-V-E-E.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman, members of the Board of Adjustment. For the record, all state statutory and Waxhaw UDO requirements have been met for this hearing. Additionally, I would like to enter my staff report and presentation into the record. The variance request is for sections 13 13.9.3A, B, and E. If approved, the variance to section 13.9.3A will allow for an electronic message board to be placed in an R2 single-family district. The variance to section 13.9.3B will allow for messages other than time and temperature to be displayed, and the variance to section 13.9.3E will allow for the message board to be 24 inches in height and have a third line of text. If you will look behind you on the board, and you also have it in your packet, the existing portions of the sign are the brick foundation and brick, roof over the top of it. What the applicant is wanting to install is the top where it says Waxhaw Elementary School, and then the bottom of the cabinet will be actually the electronic message board. As you can see in the overhead, this is the overhead of the school. This is Old Waxhaw Monroe Road, and the sign will be right here where the star is. This is just a tax parcel map, giving you a little bit better idea. It's easier to read. This is Old Providence Road, or Old Waxhaw Monroe Road. This is Esau Road, which goes into the neighborhood to the south. There's a neighborhood to the north, and then there are other single-family residential areas to the north and to the west. This is what the sign currently looks like now. As you can see, it is a changeable copy board where they actually have to take the plastic letters, which you can see on the ground to the left of the sign. They actually have to go out to each side of the sign and open it up and take the old letters down and put the new ones in. And then the top of the sign where it says Waxhaw Elementary School, they've changed their logo, and so they want to replace that also. But the electronic message board is what we're here for tonight. This is a photo coming from the south, coming towards town. You can see the school on your right, and you can see the Waxhaw Elementary School sign in the distance there. This is a sign coming from town going south. Again, the school will be to your left, and the sign is there in the foreground next to the sidewalk. The reason for the request, again, is the applicant is requesting a variance from sections 13.9.3A, B, and E. The applicant has stated in their paperwork that the variance request is based on concerns around safety, vandalism, inaccurate changes to the mascot on the current sign, and the effective and efficient communication to parents and the community. As the analysis that the staff has done is section 13.9 A, B, and E. The variance request is to those sections that I identified. If approved, the variance to section 13.9.3A will allow for the electronic message board to be placed. The variance to section 13.9.3B will allow for the messages other than time and temperature to be displayed, and the variance to 13.9.3E will allow for the message board to be 24 inches in height and have a third line of text. As required according to section 15 of the Waxhaw Development Ordinance, Unified Development Ordinance, the Board of Adjustment shall issue variances if it has evaluated an application and determined. And I'm not going to read the entire paragraph. It's generally the first sentence of each finding. These are the findings of fact, of which there are 4. Unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. The applicant's response: it is unreasonable for the school to continue leaving this safety and liability issue in place when the new signage would eliminate this and relieve them of the hardship. The second finding of fact you must find is the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. This is a public school which requires accurate signage. Similar signage is currently being used by Newtown Elementary, Cuthbertson, and Wesley Chapel. Finding number 3 that you must find is the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. No actions taken by the school resulted in the hardship. The hardship occurred due to the age of the sign, letters, and the way the sign was originally constructed. And the final finding of fact is the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that the public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. The applicant's response is this is public signage. It is the purpose to communicate with the community and parents. The communication is hindered by weather, function, and vandalism and safety. There will be minimal change required to improve the signage. We will utilize the pre-existing structure that is presently used. And lastly, in granting a variance, the board may also attach thereto any conditions or safeguards it deems necessary or desirable in furthering the purposes of this ordinance. And if you have any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer them. And the applicant is here representing the Waxhaw Elementary PTA.
Are neighbors notified when there is a variance request?
Yes, ma'am. There were letters sent to all property owners within 300 feet.
Okay.
It was also posted in the paper, and a sign was put out.
Okay.
Is there
Has there been any opposition?
No, sir.
This may just be speculation. Is this a typical ordinance for most municipalities our size?
It's electronic message boards are allowed. When you're talking about a residential district, they become somewhat of a concern, but it just depends on how they're being used. It does not appear that the sign will be flashing or anything like that. It will just be for the purpose of displaying community-oriented messages, from the school.
So if this was zoned differently, commercial or conditional, would the sign have been allowed at that point?
If it had been in a commercial district, electronic message boards are allowed. That's why part of the variance is allowing it to be in the R2 district. Also, electronic message boards can only have 18 inches. It can be on 18 inches normally with 2 lines of text, only displaying time and temperature. But generally, and gas prices, and generally, this is pretty similar to other places around.
So I went and I drove by Newtown and Cuthbertson to look at those at night to see how they looked. Now, is Cuthbertson zoned differently? Is it-
Cuthbertson is not in the town of Waxhaw.
Oh, it's not? Okay. So that's the difference. Those are Wesley Chapel and,
Yes, ma'am. I come from, I live in Fort Mill, in the Fort Mill School District. All the Fort Mill schools use electronic message boards. I know the Rock Hill schools use electronic message boards. And I know that's a different state, but and I've seen it in Charlotte and other places where they use electronic message boards.
I want to keep talking, but I noticed something in, I think it was maybe the last page, where you made a recommendation of the background staying black, being black. I don't know what that is. There's something on that last page. I think it was on the last page. A recommendation of it being black. Oh, okay,
Oh.
it's up here. No, it's
Those are the actual requirements, the way they stand now.
So, okay. Because the one thing I noticed when I was at Newtown, when I went over there last night, it was a red background and it was really bright, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I lived in that house right across the street from that sign, that's you, that would be concerning to me. So,
Yeah, the current ordinance it says that the background can only be black with red or green letters. And that was one of the things when the applicant brought the application in, is that they weren't asking for that, because at one point I had seen a photo of a different color background.
Right.
But it actually is going to be black with red letters.
so I see that neighbor sitting, and did you want to say anything about that? Or?
I'm not, the only thing that I'm against, I guess, that the thing's always flashing and blinking, and it goes into my windows all night long. I'm not in favor of that. I think the idea itself is a good idea, because it would be a whole lot easier for the parents and they drive by and join, see what's going on, because the kids aren't going to communicate with their parents. Generally, at least mine never did, tell me what was going on at the school. So I'm, in that light, I'm in favor of the sign, but I'm not in favor of a bright sign always blinking and flashing and all kinds of stuff.
Just so you all know what our ordinance calls for, and this is actual requirement as is today, and they're not asking for a variance from this section. But it is the electronic message shall not scroll, blink, or flash. New messages shall be timed to fade in and out slowly. I know there's one north of here somewhere on 16 or somewhere where I know what you're talking about. It has like a bright blue background and all of a sudden it'll go to white. And so if that is your concern, at least that's the way the ordinance is written.
Okay.
Is this the first request for variance for an electronic sign at that location?
As far as I know, yeah.
This is the only variance that I know of.
So nowhere else in town of Waxhaw do we have an electronic sign that would have been asked for an exception or variance?
We had gas station, the one up near Lowe's, but they obviously didn't need variance. Any other?
This is the only one that I'm aware of that would require variance. Everything else that you see out there, the gas station number signs and stuff, they're all allowed.
Okay.
Is this on all night, 24 hours a day, or can it be controlled in some way
I'm gonna
to address your concerns?
I'm going to let the applicant speak to that. If you'll just state your name, who you're with. Thank you.
My name's Leanne Lee. I'm Waxhaw Elementary PTO president, and the sign will actually be shut off. We are planning on just letting it run until 9 o'clock, and then it will shut off completely. So it will be black until about 6 o'clock that morning. And that's something that we can just program for the school year. We don't have to change it every day. It can just be set. And the signs that you were referring to are full color signs, and that is what gives them that really white, bright background, and it's very bright. I know what you're talking about. So this would be just a black background and red lettering, and nothing that's black, blinking or flashing, and it will be, and it will shut off at night.
Is there a different light intensity up until 9 p.m. at night?
It will self-adjust for cloud coverage and, due to weather conditions, but we can adjust that, but it will also self-adjust due, to sun and clouds and inclement weather.
Okay. How many lines of text are currently on the existing sign, the physical text?
Right now we have 4.
4 lines?
Mhm.
Does it incorporate in that 24-inch variance request, that thing that you drew up on the map? Is that the same size, that 24 inches of the existing text to the electronic text?
The variance application, what they're asking for is the current code allows for 18 inches and 2 lines. What they're asking for is to go add another 6 inches to 24 and have the third line of text. So that's what they're asking.
We would basically be giving up space on our sign if we changed it and replaced the cabinets with what the company is offering us. So where we have our full 4 lines right now of sliding letters, we have administration using one side and PTO using one side. And we use every inch of that space.
Is that illuminated at night now
It is.
with an external spotlight or internal
It
light?
is an internal
Internal light?
in the entire thing, even where it says Waxhaw Elementary with the Native Americans. So all of that is lit up.
As respects safety and liability, have there been employees injured as a result of lifting that up, or?
There has. I was hoping she was going to come tonight, but she wasn't at school, so I'm assuming she's sick. The bookkeeper, Daphne Helms, she's been with UCPS for 25 years. She is the only person in 3 years other than myself that has changed the sign because no one else will do it. And she was going out with a stick, which we still have, and I probably should have brought it here, but it's about this high, and she props that sign and climbs under it and stands and slides them. And the stick fell out from the sign and fell on her back and left a complete black and blue across her back where her husband has told her now, she can't, she's not allowed to change the sign, according to him. So that's me. And I get on the ground, and with my one arm, I change it, and my shoulder 100% hurts when I'm done. And that side is actually heavier than the other side, so I don't know why they're identical, but that one is just heavier. And for someone that's average height, it's very difficult, because you have to, that if you lay that sign flat, you only have probably 8 inches off the ground to lift it up and get under it. So, it's not an easy thing to do, and really no one wants to do it. So the sign, the picture that was there was a rainy day, and there's nothing on the sign. And there was Spirit Night Chick-fil-A, and nobody wanted to go out and stand in the rain and change the sign the day before or that day. So as I turned the corner, I looked and I'm like, this is a perfect example. It's completely empty. We can't use it, and the kids don't relay messages to their parents. They don't get things home. A piece of paper, one of 50 pieces of paper, that one might be very important versus another one that may not be. There's no way to differentiate that. So it's just a bunch of papers that come home, and the parents just kind of throw them out or put them up and never read them.
How is the electronic signage, how do you change it? Can you change it from
It's
within the
actually
school?
going to be programmed. It'll be a keyboard that
There's a
the bookkeeper
Wi-Fi or
will
something?
keep in the office.
So you don't have to go out there at all?
Not at all.
All right, one of the things you mentioned in the application was there has been vandalism.
Mhm.
Is this in a contained case that can't be lifted up, or is it relatively secure?
The case can just be lifted, period. There's no way to lock it or keep it closed. So that, you just literally walk down and lift it up.
So what types of vandalism have you seen?
The letters have been taken, the letters have been broken, the letters have been thrown in the road. Daphne, I wish she was here, has said things have been spelled, differently changed. I have not witnessed that. But this was her and I kind of going back and forth, and then,
So now can they hack into the keyboard?
no. Because the keyboard will be behind the bookkeeper's desk. Somebody could, yes, somebody could go behind her desk, go to the keyboard, probably be able to get through her password into a locked computer and change the sign. But they're probably not going to do that in an elementary school. And I would like to think that other people will be able to utilize it and change it and assist her, but most likely she will be the only one to change it, or whoever's PTO next year.
Did you all review or investigate any other signs that would meet code to replace this sign?
The only other option that I know of was that if we gave up the option for us to provide information and just do the date and time. And like I said, this is just our form of communication. So I haven't looked into, there's the electronic version, and then there's what we have now.
But what you have now requires this to be lifted. Is there not any other type of protection behind the sign that you're using today? Clearly, you could replace this sign with another similar sign that would allow you to open doors as opposed to lift the door open
Yeah.
and make it dangerous, something that would be more up to date, that would allow that.
I did not, simply because I know me and Daphne are the only ones that change it, and I know weather for her is a big thing. So even if we could open it in the middle, if it's raining, she's not going outside and changing it. And really, no one is.
You are requesting 3 lines on the electronic message board. Any indication as to, will each line be a different message, or will it be one continuous message? We have to read all 3 lines to get what you're trying to communicate across.
It will probably depend on what the message is. There are things that I can fit on one line, like a PTO meeting. But a lot of times, like right now, our board reads PTO meeting, March 7th, Chick-fil-A Spirit Night, March 15th, spring fundraiser, April 22nd. And that's basically because it does not matter how much notice I give parents, they will still show up and say, I had no idea that this was going on. And I put it up a month and a half before. So I try to kind of stay ahead of the game and give them a month's, of information if I can fit it. There are times when there's one line of text. There is.
Well, I was just concerned that with multiple lines of text, with a message to communicate across all three lines, it would be perhaps a public safety issue, that motorists would be focusing more on the sign than school kids or traffic in the area. So do you intend to use, is there a limitation on the number of characters per line that you can put on there? Do you know?
It's definitely adjustable. I mean, we could set it if that's a stipulation. Then I know everything is adjustable. However many letters, personally, I think that the signage that's there itself is going to be the same. I mean, I personally have to slow down to read the sign. And that sign is going to do the same exact thing. It's not going to blink, it's not going to flash, so that it's not going to disappear to where someone has to, even if you're driving by, you probably shouldn't just, when you come in, the idea is when you come into the school, that's where you're reading it. At drop off, or when you're leaving, you're at that stop sign, you have a crossing guard. So pretty much you're forced to slow down in the morning and in the afternoon. It's gridlock.
Yeah, I'll have to say, I had a daughter at Waxhaw, and the carpool line is very long, and you sit there for about 20 minutes, so you have plenty of time to read the sign.
So if you had to summarize what the hardship was, what is the hardship?
I think overall it's a safety issue. I just feel like I know that this is my last year. I've served my 2 years on the board, so that puts me out. I don't know who's going to step in, and I don't know, based on this year, who's going to be as committed to go out and change that sign, being that not one person has this year. The other issue, the main issue for me, is that there are Native Americans on the front of our sign, which is no longer our mascot. There was I read all about it, I had it printed, but there's this big act in North Carolina where they asked across the state to remove anything Indian, Native American. So there was 55 schools that changed their name and their mascot. We have done that for 5 years now, but our signage remains the same. So it's not consistent with who we are.
Then we'll go back to, there's nothing to stop you from changing the sign and going to, again, another sign where you have to put the letters on that could provide that safety. Maybe it's an inconvenience because of the weather. That's the piece where I'm having a hard time. Whether I'm for the sign or not for the sign, it's the hardship that we have to find here, that by not having the sign, creates that hardship from the strict, and again, finding one is where I'm having the most difficulty with. And I hear you, I do, on somebody having to go out and move that sign. I would think that there should be some alternatives. If you came and said, you know what, there's absolutely no alternative, the only sign that we can have replacing the sign is this, that would be a different story, and I'm not sure we're there.
Well, I know that as far as communicating with the town and with the parents, it would be as simple as us typing behind a board, tonight we have this, or last minute school's canceled, or listen for your phone, it may ring. These last minute things that we have to be able to communicate with our town. I submitted a picture also of, we have many community events in the town where people are taking and propping up signs on the corners of our school because we can't communicate that, to the town on our sign. We only have this much space, and we have administration taking one side of it. So I think communication is a big part of it.
So just for the board, the definition of hardship doesn't always mean pain and suffering. That's how I interpret it,
Right.
pain and suffering. Hardship in this case means just any unreasonable or illogical method to accomplish something. And so I take a harder view of hardship, that it's pain and suffering, but it doesn't have to be in order for us to view it as hardship.
Yeah, it's fair. How many other schools are there in the Waxhaw line?
Waxhaw Elementary, Kensington Elementary, and then the alternative school in downtown, within the corporate limits.
I know right now, Newtown Elementary does have the electronic sign. Wesley Chapel just got their sign, and Cuthbertson Middle does have their sign as well.
Yeah, you look at them also.
But
Yeah.
those are outside the zoning. didn't
They
so
are,
that's-
they are.
Now, I will say, Kensington and South Providence are not on roads that are main roads either, and there's not, like, you know what I'm saying, it's,
Kensington's bus parking lot faces the largest road. So
Right.
it would need to be, and we have a prime real estate to put this.
right, and same with South Providence, gosh, it's almost at a dead end.
South Bend, yeah. I know Kensington is a well-traveled road. Old Providence probably doesn't see as much traffic as Kensington, based on my experience, with the ball fields and
Overworked.
being there, yeah.
I will state this, that before the amendments to the variance laws in 2014, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, when we revised ours, the unnecessary hardship used to be a standard that you couldn't make reasonable use of your property without the variance. And it's such a hard standard. They were getting granted all the time, but it was so hard to meet that test because you can usually find some use. And when they modified the statute, they did just bring it down to the unnecessary hardship and did take away that it doesn't have to deprive all use of the property, it just has to be an unnecessary hardship. And there haven't really been enough cases since then because it's a new and lower standard that was just 2 years ago, so appellate decisions usually take a few years, so I haven't seen a case since we amended our ordinance in 2014 with this new law. But it's a little bit lower than it was 2 years ago. But it's still supposed to be, it's supposed to make it difficult for them. It's not supposed to be for just granted because it's the easier way out. Monetary expenditures can be a factor, but money alone cannot be the sole factor. And this really isn't a money alone case, but that's always a factor that people look at.
And I'll just go back to this, that's my one concern on this one, is that they're, without having seen that other signs would be either impossible to get or not available that could maintain some safety or upgrade what they currently have and still stay within the requirements, this is where I'm having the most difficulty on that hardship, on that finding number one. It's not a matter of whether it's any useful purpose of that, I get that. What I'm hearing from a hardship is being able to change the shunt sign. Clearly, this sign is a danger, but I'm not sure that there's not another alternative that couldn't be met, meeting the existing code.
Does an electronic sign provide better visibility as opposed to the existing sign, which has some background light? Would that provide better visibility for people passing by, going in and out of the property? From looking
Yes.
at the two other ones that were identified in this process, the electronic sign is much better in terms of getting your interest and getting your attention than having a static sign with perhaps a little bit of light. They're hard to see.
Yes, that is true. I have
And I think
submitted
it's-
to, the information with the lumens and the,
Yeah.
10 reasons why to have. So, I know that part of this variance is we are allowed to have an electronic sign that shows temperature and shows date. So what we are asking for is that we can effectively communicate everything that we put on this board every day for our parents to read, for the community to read, rather than just the option of showing time and temperature.
But your current zoning does not allow for electronic sign at all, correct? So that's the first variance that we're looking for here, is that your zone, R2, does not allow for electronic sign. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's the first thing. So it's not, you're not even entitled to have any electronic sign, regardless of whether it has 1 or 2 lines. So again, it goes back to, well, I'll stop there.
Well, that is the reason we're asking for the variance. I'm just gonna read to you what I typed up because I don't know if I've said everything, but,
That's fine.
okay, so I wrote that safety is a major concern. Injuries have occurred while changing the sign. Our bookkeeper, Daphne Hall, had the cover fall down on top of her back, causing major pain and bruising. In order to change the sign, you must get on the ground to lift the cover and slide up under the sign. See the photos. These injuries create a liability issue. This electronic sign would release the school liability, as the existing signage leaves potential for further injury. In this litigious society, we put our school and school district in a financial hardship due to the risk of safety issues that are present and probable for future injury. The sign is also an asset to the community to give accurate and to-the-minute information to our parents and staff and students as well as the community. The electronic marquee will make this possible for all of this to be done inside the school building and eliminate the need to physically go outside and change the sign daily. And then I went on to say that the other schools have it, and I told you the schools that have had it, and they've implemented electronic marquees. And I know that they're not in residential areas, but this is the only man that is across the street from the sign, literally. And we're going to shut it off at night, so. This sign is easy to change and monitor with Wi-Fi. The sign can and will be programmed to shut off at 9 p.m. every night, turn back on at 6 a.m. day, eliminating bothersome lighting at night that our cabinet now does put off. Allowing our new signage will also allow us to update our school mascot with the wolf, and this will be consistent with our new mascot that was chosen in 2009. In 2002, the North Carolina State Board of Education issued the action statement that called all educators in schools in North Carolina to educate themselves on the educational, curricular, and psychological effects using American Indian sports mascots and logos, and that all public schools administrators review the policies and procedures towards the use of American Indian sports mascots and logos and all demeaning imagery. So that's what I have. I know that we could probably look at replacing our cabinet with another slide-on letter version of our cabinet, but it is just not effective for the school. We constantly are trying to relay parent messages to the parents, and there are times when we almost want to change it twice daily, to go out in the morning, put something on there, we caught drop off, okay, but now we may have inclement weather and we want to go back out and change it, but I'm, one man show, so I can't get to it, and I guess that's.
Y'all were asking about the lumens different, and I know these weren't taken probably from the same angle, but that's the sign as they propose it. And that is pretty close. Yeah, if you'll turn on that. That's the sign as they propose, and that is pretty close. Excuse the tape where it was taped together. That's the way it will. That's the way the sign will look with the LED during the day, and then. As you can see, you can see the letters, but the problem you have with that is you can see, it's not as legible, it's probably not as bright, and when you put the glass over the top of it, there is reflection and glare. So there is a difference from that standpoint. And I just want to point that out.
Is there a glass over the electronic sign to protect the, what's behind it as
Yes,
well?
yes.
Is it non-glare or is it?
It is not glare,
Okay.
yes.
So it would be probably more legible and easier to read as you're going by or you're in the circle than what they have now.
Is that the actual sign, or is that, I mean, just a close replica of that sign? So when we talk about the lettering, like the number of letters across the top would be
Absolutely.
identical to that?
Exactly the same.
To me, when we have these sign ordinances, it's to maintain a good appearance in the town. And to me, this looks better than the signs that have little letters.
I want to ask one question. The sign that's there now, I know it's internally lit.
Yes.
When it's turned on, the entire cabinet,
The
top to
entire
bottom, side to side,
Yes.
is lit up.
Yes.
Okay. And on this one, the only thing that will be lit up is the letters, the white letters and the red letters.
And the red letters, yes. And yeah, those pictures don't really do us any justice. It's very yellow. Like everything that should be white is yellow. And most of the letters that are black are gray. And broken. And we would not be changing the structure itself. It would be cabinets on either side with pre-existing electric that is there. You can see in the bottom right corner, and everything will remain the same as far as the structure.
And really, the other thing that I think about is, had this not been in a residential zoning, this had been commercial, they would have been allowed to have an electrical sign. Now, I know it would have just had to been time and date or gas prices to me, which is, you know, not as nice as this. And so in here, it's residential because it's a school. I mean, schools are allowed in residential areas. So it just seems to me that it still fits. I mean, it's not like we're talking about a business that's advertising their prices.
Is there any other questions for the public hearing or anybody wanting to speak? As part of the public hearing, have you said everything you wanted to say?
Right now, the sign that is there, the bulbs are pretty well burnt out on the back, so you really can't see it that well. And to keep up with that board the way it is now, it's just going to take a lot more work than I think. I think it'll be a lot more work than it is to put this in. I think, right, with the old board, the bulbs were all in, it was all lit up. It is quite a bright sign. I really do notice that. I think this will be less intrusive than the standard sign that's there. And if they turn it off at night, that solves my problem.
I mean,
I'm not sworn in, but am I allowed to speak?
You need to be sworn in.
That's fine. My wife's a school teacher, so I was just gonna,
I have a quick question. Would the school district agree to a condition to cut it off at night, at 9 o'clock as part of the variance, or?
Yes.
Okay, that might- They said you're gonna do it, but if you could have.
right.
Yeah, if y'all so choose.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second?
There's a motion to close public hearing VA-004-161-2016. There's a second to close it. All in favor? Opposed? Motion to close public hearing is passed. Now we need a motion to open new business.
Or are you that's just the next agenda
Okay.
item?
So the next agenda item is to discuss new business regarding the variance request by Waxhaw Elementary PTO, VA-004-161-2016. I did clarify we don't have to do 4 findings of fact for each 3, just finding one time. We can lump the 3 sections together. So if we want to talk through finding of fact 1, I kind of thought that you had a valid point that they could find an alternative sign. There's other product out there. But I think the more she talked, when you talk about accurate, effective, up to the minute, and safety, I think the more efficient use, and we're going into available technology, affordable available technology, it can present a hardship in the form of effective and efficient, up to the minute communication. That's where I see the hardship, and it impacted by weather and maintenance of the sign. So I see the hardship there.
Okay. Yeah, and I would just, oh, go ahead.
I was going to suggest that somebody make a motion and then we do this in discussion. And I probably haven't told you that earlier, but we're trying to do this with the town board and get everybody doing it. And it's not illegal and proper, but the better way to do that, and you can either make a motion and vote against it, which is, this happened to get to discussion. So maybe we can have a motion to find either way that there is an unnecessary hardship or there is not. I don't want to put words in your mouth and then get a second, and we'll have a discussion on that one that you're already having. It's just a different, and I know it's splicing things, but it's a little cleaner for the.
And do we have to do that for each
Separate motion for each one, and you have to have a 4/5 vote in the affirmative for each one. And if you don't, as a matter of law, it fails.
I think Dustin has addressed the first one, and I make a motion that we accept that there is an adequate level of hardship involved.
The strict application of the ordinance, that's an unnecessary hardship.
So all, yeah. So, all in favor that there is adequate evidence of unnecessary hardship that would result from the strict application of the ordinance?
Or you can have further discussion if you would like. Whichever way.
Do we need to discuss? Or?
I think we already discussed that well enough.
All right, we'll put to a vote. All in favor of granting variance? Aye. Opposed, no. Motion to accept finding 1 of unnecessary hardship. It's passed. Motion to open discussion on finding 2. Is there a motion?
I'll motion that we vote in the affirmative for finding that there is indeed any hardship results from the condition of this property and location.
I second the motion.
Any discussion needed? All right, all those in favor of affirming the finding of fact 2, that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as size, location, topography, safety. Opposed? So affirming finding of fact number 2 passes. Is there a motion to open discussion on finding fact 3?
Do the motion. That finding fact number 3, we vote in the affirmative that there is a hardship that did not result from the actions taken by the applicant of the property owner.
I'll second.
Any discussion needed on finding fact 3? All right, so finding fact 3, all 4 affirming finding fact 3. Aye. All opposed? Finding of fact 3 is affirmed that the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. Is there a motion to open discussion on finding 4?
Motion that we find finding number 4 in the affirmative, and that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, and public safety is secured, and substantial justice is achieved.
I second the motion.
Is there discussion needed regarding finding fact 4? Okay. All those to affirm finding fact 4, that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit and purpose, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
sort of,
Should be affirm the motion, table the following conditions. Affirm the variance,
It would be, procedurally, the best way to do this, you still need a motion in there, you voted on all of them to grant it. And then this is where, if you do want to place any conditions, I know we talked about one, I think most of the others were already in the extra text of the ordinance regarding the lighting being black at the back, and then no scrolling at the top. You would make a motion to grant the variance with any conditions.
in the, okay, because the variance explicitly says what it's asking for, which is the size of 6 inches, it's asking for 3 lines, so we don't need to reaffirm that, is that correct?
Correct, that will be in the, there now has to be a written order from each one of these, and I was gonna ask specifically what was being requested with the lines, but that was 6 inches larger with the lines. It's gonna apply to residential, and that's because it's a school. The 18 inches goes up to 24, 2 lines goes up to 3, and then the content could be for school-related purposes. So those are already.
So we should go ahead and motion it and have discussion on any conditions, or do we discuss the conditions?
I would do a motion to approve with any conditions you have in that discussion.
The only condition I saw that wasn't written in the ordinance was like hours of operation from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. There's something else here.
Should I make a motion? Or do you want to make a motion?
I did have a condition that this variance applied to the installation of this sign only.
That's the other thing I want to talk about. I mean, do we go ahead and think about opening this variance up to any school within the Waxhaw, or could we do that?
You can't, because each variance has to be unique.
Fair enough, absolutely. No, I get it.
Yes, so,
Yeah.
a great question, but what you are thinking about is, others will look at this for guidance when they come.
Yes.
Because this is, especially if it's the same board, if they're very similar facts, and the land is probably going to be different, and different roads, different streets, different safety, different facts, but they will look at the overall application of someone else, another school comes, and it could be similar, but you'll still have to go through all the findings.
Yeah.
But I would put it to this installation only,
Yeah.
so that 5 years from now or 10 years from now, they would have to abide by whatever UDO is in place. And then if they wanted a variance, they'd reapply for it. So only conditions I thought of was the hours of operation, and that it applies to this occurrence only.
Yeah.
So I think we need a motion to grant variance, and you have to say the with conditions, and read out the conditions.
I make the motion that we approve this variance subject to 2 conditions, that the hours of operation are limited from 6 in the morning till 9 at night, and also that it applies only to this particular school, or this particular motion, or this particular application.
And I think y'all said sign.
This particular sign and installation. All those in favor of granting the variance?
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor of granting the variance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I do have a motion to adjourn, Board of Adjustment. Oh, okay.
Oh, is it in there?
Anything else?
It's not. Can we motion to amend the agenda, or the agenda for the minutes in their packets?
They were.
The item is not listed on the agenda for minutes.
So,
We can do, I mean,
or do we do it next time?
when will next time be?
I think Christmas.
I may have heard them.
Probably won't.
Except for here. No, it just,
From 5 to 7.
you can go ahead and do it. We may have to put it on the next agenda as well, consent to ratify, but I just hate we don't have to wait. So there need to be a motion to amend the agenda.
So I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add,
It's up here, you can spell proof it, it's at the very bottom of the case. See number 6 on the last line?
There it is. Number 6.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
It's on that.
Yes, those are the two.
So, like I say, are there any questions or concerns? Are there any questions or concerns regarding the minutes from the last meeting? Is there a motion to approve the minutes from?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to approve the minutes, that's passed. Do you have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second motion.
They did good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
You did good.
6 months.